Okay, Alan rolling again. This is part 3 of the coal miners' strike that took place in Walker County, Alabama in 1920 and 1921, and we'll bring this to a close shortly anyway. Once again, here is the title of the strike, the coal strike in 1920-21, Walker County, Alabama. Something we can all be proud of, and I say that tongue-in-cheek. There's nothing we can be proud of. All right, the last time in the previous video, and we spoke about the violence that had taken place here in 1920, that particularly in Carbon Hill in July, with that of Bill Barrett being murdered and several other people also by Will Hicks. We talked about the incident that took place at Corona, and now the governor of Alabama, Thomas Kilby, has called in the National Guard. 5 companies of guardsmen were called in and deployed around Walker County, various places. Let's see if I can get my light right here. There we go. And you can see that Company M went to Nauvoo, and that Company G went to Townley. Down at Corona, we had Company K. At Cordova, Company E. And in Empire, there was a headquarters company of the Alabama National Guard. 550 members of the Guard. All right, so a lot of things taking place here, a lot of turmoil, a lot of strife, and where I want to take you to, let's go up to the area here of Nauvoo. I'm trying to get my camera adjusted right. In the area of Nauvoo, that's where Company M of the Alabama National Guard was deployed, and been some confrontations take place between union workers here and the mining officials at the Shackelford Monroe coal company that was present in that area. And one of the members of the National Guard, a Private James Morris, went up to a agitating worker, if you want to call it that, union worker, who was thought to be trying to cause discord there where the company lines were. And anyway, the Private James Morris arrested this individual. His name was Adrian Northcutt. From what I've read on him, he was just a very mild individual. He was a Nazarene preacher, and arrested him and apparently took him, his behavior as being one that was hostile, and the Private Morris shot and killed Adrian Northcutt, this striking union miner. Well, there were some witnesses to this, from the striking workers, and they in turn killed the private, the National Guard private, which is just an unthinkable thing. But nonetheless, they did do this. And of course, this meant that the National Guard was going to try to find the individuals that were responsible for the death of Private Morris, and they identified one as Will Baird. People call him Willie Baird. There's several different ways to spell his name. And anyway, I'll show you one in just a few minutes. You saw it on the Dramatis Personae at the start of the first presentation anyway. And so Will Baird knew that his life was in danger, so he went to the Walker County Sheriff. Walker County Sheriff Claude Guttery at that time. He was the sheriff from 1919 until 1922. He's buried at Oak Hill Cemetery. If it really matters to you, you can go out and look for his grave if you want to do so, with no special purpose in mind. And anyway, he turned himself into him, and this was on the condition that he would be protected, this Will Baird, on the condition that he would be protected and given fair trial. All right, I can understand that. So he was incarcerated in the Jasper jail. All right, so let's take ourselves to the night of 12th and 13th of January, and moving on into past midnight, so it would be January the 13th in 1921, 3 o'clock in the morning. And for some crazy reason, 2 cars left out of the Holly Grove Townley area. One of them was a taxi. It was a Buick, and it was driven by a taxi driver by the name of Leslie West. And it had another car, which was a Ford. And in this car, there was approximately 10 individuals dressed in overalls and old coats. It was cold. It was awfully cold, a freezing night, as a matter of fact. And they went to Jasper. And when they did so, they drove in two cars into Jasper, and they went to the county jail. So let me show you the schematic of what we have here, and try to get my lighting adjusted properly. I'm having trouble with this in this presentation. And this is what Jasper looked like in 1916. Town Creek hasn't changed a bit. There's Town Creek, and notice where the courthouse is. And I sketched this. This is the courthouse to put up with this. And across the street here, this would be to the east here. This is where the jail was. That's the Walker County Jail. It's where the Pinnacle Bank parking lot is today. couple other points of reference here. If we look over here, this is the Jasper Graded School, as it was known as that time. And then that's what Maddox Middle School is today, or when I went to school there, it was Central Elementary and Central Junior High School. And just right across the street here, well, there's tennis court that's here now, but right across the street there was the old Tom Gray House. And that was a high school. That was a high school at that time in 1916 for the community. Back here, we see, well, you can't see it there. There's the Presbyterian Church, which is present day location. If we look over here, here's a Baptist church. Now, this Baptist church is roughly where Los Reyes is today. Not Los Reyes, I didn't mean to say that. Where Johnny Brusco's is today. Back in my time anyway, this was the old Elmore's store, old Woolworth store, which was present there. And if we go up here, this is the Green Front Hotel. That's where Los Reyes is today. Notice there's a Coca-Cola company that's present there. And we had a commercial hotel. This is where the parking area is, right across from the present day Walker County Jail. But this is where the jail was located then. And I can remember when the jail was located right there likewise. This jail was a county jail for those of you that are baby boomers. Grew up in the 1950s or even 1940s. You remember this jail. This was a PWA jail built during the Great Depression, built in 1936. Now, where the jail is that I'm talking about, where Will Baird was located, was in this same location, but it is not this jail. It was an earlier jail than this. That jail was built in 1894, and it was disassembled in 1936 to provide for the construction of this PWA jail. From the old jail, the rock and stone that they could preserve was used to build the library. That was the WPA library, which was right across from the Methodist Church. It's the old courthouse annex today. All right, I'm going to come back to that photo in just a minute. And right next to that, incidentally, for you older folks who remember this, we had the old City Hall. Now, this City Hall is where the bank is located today. You had the City Hall, which was present here, and right here was the fire station. I've had jog some memories anyway. And I was told the other day, I was not even aware of this, that the old Jasper jail was behind the City Hall. I did not know that, but anyway, you learn something every day. All right, so anyway, and let me show another photograph here. This is a photograph which is showing you the present day location of where that jail was. The jail was right here. This is a courthouse right over here. Here's the annex, courthouse annex. And over here is Pinnacle Bank. That's Pinnacle Bank today. But this is where the jail was in this parking lot then. All right, so we'll go back to my photograph showing the jail because it was kind of similar. But when these 10 individuals arrived in Jasper, the ones that were in the Buick, went up to where the jail was, and off to the side of the jail there was an old concrete bridge present there, and they parked back in that area, and 3 people got out of the car, and they went up to the front of the jail, and they summoned the jailer sides anyway. Well, 3 other individuals had gone behind the jail and scaled the fence. And for the individuals that were in the front, they were trying to get the jailer to open up the door here, let them inside. The jailer refused to do so. And they kept saying, we want Baird, we want Baird. And then the guys that snuck around and across the fence, when they came around, they were able to overpower the jailer. So all of them went inside, and they found Will Baird. He was in his night clothes, like he was in his pajamas. Didn't even have shoes on. They didn't allow him to put shoes on. In fact, these guys were so quiet that he didn't even wake up until they actually woke him up. And so they took him out of the jail and drove him off. The other car, which was the Ford, was parked over near the old public school that I pointed out a few minutes ago. All right, if we look at this 1916 map, I took a photograph of this. You can see where the courthouse is here. This is where the jail would have been. This is where the Maddox Middle School is located now. The old high school would have been back there. And if you look carefully at it, you can see that this was a wooden bridge here, and this was just a walking bridge. That's a walking bridge, which is right beside beside the middle school today. During the time I'm talking about, 1921, this was a concrete bridge. You go out there and you actually look at the old foundation to it to this day. All right, so they took Will Baird away, and the next morning the sheriff, Claude Guttery, came out, and Claude Guttery looked at the situation, and he said, getting my camera adjusted, and it just said, well, it had to be striking workers that did this. They just broke Will Baird out of jail. Well, as it turned out, later in the morning, out in the Farmstead area, out on what was at that time called the Manchester Road, a postman, a postal carrier, was delivering mail, and he looked down into a ditch, and lo and behold, there was a body that was present there. And this body was identified as that of Will Baird. Wow. So that was kind of crazy there. So anyway, when the investigation took place with that, of all things, they found 10 cartridges, 10 spent casings there. That was Army ammunition. It was full metal jacket ammunition. Obvious it was military ammunition. So now the story changed, and it was not, striking workers that had freed Will Baird. It was actually the 9 members of the National Guard. And those individuals were arrested along with the taxi driver, Leslie West. In the days that would follow, 34 members of the National Guard and Company M were sent back to Tuscaloosa. They were confined to their barracks. So as I mentioned a few seconds ago, these individuals were arrested. Let's go back to the camera. And by the way, I took this photograph showing you the Manchester Road here, and I don't know exactly where Will Baird's body was found, but it was somewhere in this area here, 2.5 miles north of Jasper, Alabama, off in a ditch there. The individuals that were arrested are in front of you here, and 9 individuals. I can't believe this. You had actually 6 non-commissioned officers, 3 sergeants, 3 corporals, the privates that were present there, and then the taxi driver, who was Leslie West. And they were transported to Birmingham, and they were incarcerated there in the jail. The thing about it was they were scheduled for their trial. This trial was going to take place in Hamilton, in the Marion County Courthouse in Hamilton. I lost my camera here. And as it turned out, the trial never took place. Alabama was tired of this. And the strikes and the trials, the National Guard, all of that, it was costing Alabama $100,000 a month. This is in 1921. And everybody was ready for it to go. And the case ended up being null prost. In other words, it was just, it was not prosecuted here. The Alabama National Guard went home. The people that were in jail, they were just released here. And there were some conditions that had to be met here. The union would be recognized. The coal companies, that was part of the agreement, they would recognize the United Mine Workers Association. On the other hand, the United Mine Workers Association agreed that they would remove all of their officials there. All of the agitators would be removed. And by February, the strike came to a close. And so anyway, I cannot tell you that things will improve, but they are going to get better. Coal strikes will still continue all the way through the years. And I can remember, wildcat strikes taking place, all the way through 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, as a matter of fact. I can remember that too. And I have to tell you this about 1921. In 1921, one bright side, the Walker County High School football team won the state championship. How about that? I was in the sheriff's office the other day and just happened to look at a photograph, and he had it on the wall right there. Alrighty, I hope you've enjoyed these presentations. It was fun on my part exploring all of this, getting off to all of these locations. I hope you'll do the same. And by the way, one of the places that you might run across, and I found this to be fascinating, this is in the area of Holly Grove, kind of in Townley area. It's the old Eastleigh Cemetery, and it's an interesting place to visit there. A lot of people say it's haunted. Who knows? You may be able to go out there and see something you may not really want to see there. Alrighty, thank you very much for your attention. I enjoyed giving this presentation.